Good afternoon, and welcome to the Brand Storytelling live streams for May 27th, 2020. I'm Drew Parkhill. Thanks for being with us. The live streams are every Wednesday afternoon, and our mission is to deliver the most timely and relevant information for our community of brands and their storytelling partners. These shows are designed for you, so please let us know how we can best serve this community by suggesting future topics and guests that would help you now as well as into the future. You can drop me a line. I'm Drew at BrandStorytelling.tv. I want to introduce our host today. Karen Whitney Vernon is the SVP of Branded Entertainment at Shaftesbury, an award-winning creator and producer of original scripted and factual content for brands, digital, television, and film. Karen and her team have created original works for many brands, including RBC, Kimberly-Clark, Nokia, and Unilever. With that, I'll hand it over to Karen. Take it away.
Hello, everyone. So nice to be here, and I'm sure we want to see our panelists. Hopefully they can come on as well. Today we are really having an opportunity to look at where we're going after we've gone through this whole period of COVID, and how is this going to look for all of us. I think the future of creating content, running organizations, and really having an opportunity to think of the well-being of our staff and our employees. I've got three really amazing women on this panel. I'm really excited that they're part of this, and I wanted to introduce them. And I'm going to start with Catherine Winder. And I was so lucky. Catherine and I had a great chance to meet in Toronto before all of this craziness started, and have a really nice dinner and kind of recap everything. But she's an amazing entrepreneur here. She's the CEO and EP of Wind, Sun, and Sky Entertainment, which is a multimedia platform production company. And she's also, because she's not busy enough, she needs more to do. And she's also CEO and partner of Skybound North Entertainment, which is a partnership with Skybound Entertainment. And that group is the ones that bring us Walking Dead, which I'm a huge fan, and gushed over when we were talking about that. So she's managing two studios, one in Vancouver and one in Los Angeles. And I think she's also collaborating with a lot of partners across Europe and in Asia. And right now she's going to talk, I hope today, a little bit about some of the projects she's working on, in particular a kids mobile app that she's had to kind of do a speed up on because of this whole COVID thing. Now we've got Jen Kuzmic, who is, again, I got a great chance to meet her once only, but I knew right away she's an amazing woman, because I think we met at a breakfast at TIFF, and she was very open, and when you wander up, she starts talking to you. So I love people like that. Makes those kind of events a little bit less awkward. She's the executive director of the Banff World Media Festival and Playback. And Playback in Canada is our leading national media industry publication. And Banff, again, is an amazing event that she has to orchestrate and put on, bringing together a lot of Canadian producers and people around the globe to talk about, content. It's a marketplace, it's a learning place, and an amazing event. But she also, because again, all these women don't just sit and do one thing, she sits on the board of directors as vice chair for what we call WIFTI, which is Women in Film and Television Toronto Foundation, which is, again, an organization really there to support women in this business. And she's also working at university, teaching a 4-year course on business in film, television, and digital. So, and last but not least is my friend Heather Ritchie, who's head of campaign strategy. But she is what I consider a lifelong learner. She's one of those people that always comes out and wants to know why and what are we doing and how are we going to change things. And she is the executive producer of the show that we helped Shaftesbury on called Future Rhythmic. That is a great opportunity to see thought leaders in the tech world. She has been for 2 decades now working with a lot of different global high-tech companies. So I think she's going to add a different perspective to this. And she was leading Nokia's marketing campaign strategy, but also I think just had a little bit of a new job shift. So I'm excited for her on that. But again, she doesn't stay with just one thing. She's working on and I love this when I read it, her most, helping teach communication workshops for emerging leaders. And her most recent one is cut bullshit conversations and get stuff done. And so how do you communicate? Your communication skills need to lead in this new era of augmented intelligence, but I would also say COVID-19 will have changed that too. So this is a 4-year course, or this is a course that she's developed after 4 years of research. And I think she's turning it into a book, which I'm excited to see that. So, so here we are. Thank you again for all of you coming. And I know one of the things that we talked about a little bit was in this day and age of content creation, how are we cutting through, providing something of value, cutting through the clutter that's out there, and how do we give value to our customers? We know right now that the opportunities are there. It's a little bit daunting for a lot of people, but the opportunities are there to be nimble and quick. And I think there is this idea of collaboration that we're looking for, this thought that we need to kind of a sense of growth, a sense of connection, and a sense of contributing to our society. So love to start talking with all of you. And I think, Jen, I'm going to start with you because you probably had the most profound effect with everything happening with COVID-19, and really hoping you can just tell us a little bit of how you've had to pivot.
Well, I'm not sure we've had the most profound effect, but certainly for us, we were scheduled every year. We do the festival. Would be 40 our 41st year this year. I haven't been with the festival for 41 years, but in June, in mid-June, and of course, when we, like everyone else, realized that wasn't going to happen. So in March, at the end of March 23rd. We met with our board. We made the decision that it was going to be impossible and irresponsible to hold the festival. We canceled it. We had to refund all of our passes that had been sold and refund all of our sponsorships and start at zero. The next morning, we took a minute to feel bad about that. And then the next morning, work started to build an entirely new business model, an entirely new content offering, and entirely new revenue streams. And in just around 8 weeks, we've actually done that. So like many events around the world, I mean, a lot of you will be familiar with the Cannes Lion, and the Cannes Film Festival, and Hot Docs, and others, and they have been doing the same things that we're doing. We've been your note about collaborating, and we've really been doing that with a lot of those organizations. So that was important and continues to be, and there really is this community spirit. What we have done is we have pivoted the festival to be a wholly virtual event. So we hold a big awards show, which is the Rocky Awards. We're producing that. And it's going to be streaming it live on June 15th on YouTube. We are doing all of our sessions, all of our panels, all of our master classes in environments just like this. So when you talk about the big pivot, we've had to, all the people that handled, this is a really good example, all the people that handled logistics for us, and that means on-site, signage of where to go where and what the cocktails we're serving and where speakers are and green rooms, all of those things, all of those people within our organization that do all that stuff, they've had to pivot, learn how to operate platforms like this and to put on content. So now Banff is not a live event company in a matter of weeks. We're a content provider, and we've had to figure out how to monetize that. And we're monetizing that by selling commercial time, essentially, 15, 30-second spots and things like that. And so it has been pivot with a capital P, for sure.
Yeah. So I mean, there's a lot there, and a lot of learning, as you said, that you could probably share with people as well. And I think, Catherine, I mean, you were giving us a little bit about background about what you're doing and how are you doing things differently. And out of that stuff that you're doing differently, what do you think you're going to actually keep? What have you learned from that?
I learned a lot. I think it's early to know exactly what we're going to keep, but we're in those discussions all the time right now because there's a lot of good that's come out of this. Lots of challenges. Like everybody, we literally overnight moved to remote, and we had 4 different projects in various stages of production. And so it was quite a challenge. And we're in the digital business. but we're looking at moving more and more into digital because this virus has really accelerated the trend towards digital, and it's pushed us to think differently. And that being, we've now moved some of our production remote to home offices in a way that I'd never predict, and having 60 people working for us in North America all at home is nothing I could have envisioned. However, it's working really well on a lot of fronts. And for our team, it's been a real equalizer because we've had two different groups, one in LA, one in Vancouver. And while we've really tried hard to create a culture and bridge and everyone feel a part of the same company, it's not always that easy. And everybody being remote, it's this equalizer. There's a connectivity that's truly organic and has brought the company together culturally, from an operational perspective, in many ways that have, we couldn't have predicted. So it's been a real learning experience, and we're all reflecting on how the best way is to go forward after all of this, which is a ways off.
So you think that you're looking at things all the time and trying to decide if this is going to be something you're going to bring back in, or something you hope that you can go back to the way it was? I mean, is that a constant thing you're looking at?
Yeah, we're constant. We have a leadership meeting 3 times a week, and that is one of our topics, which is, what's working, what's not, how do we make it better, how do we keep our team culturally, operationally connected. Some of our day-to-day processes have had to be much more formalized in how we work together. Mm-hmm. And the communication as such has really improved, and everybody feels like they're on the same page in a way that while we thought we were doing a great job at it with the pop over to somebody's desk, say hi in somebody's office and keep that communication flowing, the regularity and the need for formality, because everybody is remote, has created a structure and a flow of information that I feel has really upped our game.
Yeah.
And it's those kind of changes that I think are really valuable. And how do you maintain those? Should we go back to a full office? And quite frankly, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it makes sense to fully go back. We work remotely with people all over the world. Generally, we're always looking for the best talent. It doesn't matter where they're located. And while we've maintained that is a system we've done globally, and that the team in North America works in the same office, well, may not be as necessary going forward.
Yeah, and I think, Heather, you were talking a little bit on our call that you've always been in a remote office. This isn't new for you. So, and a lot of, I'm assuming, of your company has done that, but it's more, you've seen a real shift in terms of your sales team and how they operate and how they work. And that's been a bit of a difference for your organization. And I think you mentioned, Catherine, when you just talk, how do you up your game? Like what is Nokia doing and helping the sales group? How are you upping your game? What are you doing?
So we've really been around the kind of content that our customers care about. So we run big telecom networks. We make equipment, and our customers are working hard to keep your broadband up or your phone connections, and the traffic patterns are completely different. And so adapting networks to make sure there's enough capacity, right? And you're adding capacity into places, instantly, and you're adding capacity at a schedule that's far faster than what people anticipated. So for us on the content side, it's pivoting to those issues, getting really clear on what matters to our customers and making sure that we're helping them along the way. So that's number one. The pivot is really on content. And the other thing too that surprised us in all of this is the willingness to participate in digital formats. We always assume that, like Catherine, that you have to be in front of a customer's face. But we're finding we're getting more time with customers now, and we're able to bring in some really interesting speakers and have some great discussions. And that's working out better than we thought.
Well, I mean, as you said, now there's not the travel. You don't have to worry about the travel. You can get people. We're all sitting at home. It's not like we're an hour and a half, 2 hours in traffic trying to get to work. So you're right. There's probably a little bit more time in between those kind of moments. Catherine, just really quickly. I mean, we talked on this. You've launched a new app for kids, and you've had to speed that up. Like, what are your thoughts on how you can kind of cut through the clutter? I mean, we're all talking about content now. We're all trying to get content out there. Jen, you've gone into now creating content when you did live events. How do we cut through the clutter with this, all this content coming out?
Well, it's difficult and challenging. And in our case, we haven't brought the app out early, but we had to pivot our business strategy. We've been developing a kids mobile app with a plan to go live at the end of this year or early into next year. And in producing and creating this app, we also had to produce videos because it's an app with gamified interactive videos. And when COVID hit, we were frustrated. The app wasn't ready to go, but that's just the nature of where it was at. And we'd only been going for 9 months. But in that 9 months, we produced 150 test videos that we were putting into the app as we were developing it that were filled with camp-based and themed, fun, active shows. And all creative, curated, safe, all in the brand that we're developing through the app, which is called Camp Bonkers. And we stepped back and said, listen, there's something here. It's a shame for us to wait another 9 months to go live. Why don't we leverage this wonderful goldmine of content to help parents and kids who might be going bonkers at home as parents are trying to,
So true.
right?
Yeah,
As they're all trying to do so many
absolutely.
different things. It's not easy. So we thought, all right, let's pivot. And we hired our on-screen counselors who are part of the video, who are also all isolating at home, brought green screens to their houses, cameras, and taught them how to self-direct and find their authentic voices, and created a variety show that showcased these videos we created. And we did this all in about 6 weeks. We wrote, we cast, edited, shot the shows, and set up our YouTube Kids channel, a website, all the socials. And we just launched a couple weeks ago. And we're in the early phases, and we know it's going to take time, but we're working hard to figure out what that audience engagement strategy is, and we're moving in a way that hopefully ultimately brings eyeballs to our app when we're ready to launch that.
Yeah, and you're right. Parents are looking for things to do with their kids, and we've heard here in Ontario that basically all summer camps are off. So I'm sure lots of people will be looking for something like that, Catherine. That's a great idea. But sorry.
That's the hope, right?
Yeah. And Jen, I mean, we're talking a lot about people seem to be working a lot. Like you've been working a lot, Catherine, Heather. Everyone's trying to figure this out. How do you kind of help in terms of burnout? How are you working with your team to make sure you're aware of their mental health and moving forward with, this uncertainty? Because I think the uncertainty is what really freaks people out. So.
Boy, does it. So just, I know we're not unique in this. Many other people and many companies are doing the exact same things that we are, but our team hasn't had a day off since like 7 days a week, really, since end of March. And, we are also working extraordinarily long days, 15, 16, 17, 18-hour days, a lot of times. And it's a challenge. The first part of that is if we want to, frankly, survive, but also thrive, if we want to look at this not as a catastrophe, but as an opportunity, this is what is required. That said, it is hard, and so many of us are dealing with that. And actually, Catherine, what you said about your team coming together and feeling more closer and more cohesive than ever before, I will echo that 1,000,000%. It's at the point now with our team where it was like 10:30, almost 11 o'clock last night, and they were just doing social things together. I'm like, do you guys know, have you not on Slack? Have you not had enough of each other? That's an amazing thing, but you have to protect that. And I think as a leader, as somebody who's managing teams, you need to make sure that there's such open communication and that people can come to you and say, I can't do this anymore right now. I need a break. And you need to, before it gets even to that stage, be able to say to people, okay, you know what, we're going to knock it off today at this time, and please go, and please don't. Like, if there's an emergency, we'll deal with it. But other than that, make sure you protect your time. Make sure you take, chunks of time to not do this stuff and not think about this stuff, and giving permission for people to do that in an environment where we're like working so hard. We're excited about what we're doing because it's actually gone from that, oh my God, what are we going to do, to be, oh my God, how cool, look what we're doing. You know, but you have to be able to give, you know, to work hard and to expect that of yourself and others, but to give yourself and your team permission to slow down and take some time. And sometimes that's hard when it's a deadline a day, literally. But we're finding our teams are spelling each other off, and I don't know about the other people, but I said our logistics team is learning how to do new things. Everybody's learning how to do new things on our team, and that's great. And we're looking at that as an opportunity, but that's also taxing mentally to have to do that. So we are leaning on each other, honestly, more than we ever have before. And all of the managers at where I work, a company called Burnout Communications, we do, you know, 25 events a year. Being an events company right now takes a lot of innovation in order to stay relevant. And so we're all working like that, but we are doing more cross brand sharing is another big thing that we're doing, both to share the emotional load, but also the workload.
So how does that work? Like, how do you all of a sudden start, especially when you're not in the same office? Like, that seems
exactly like this.
Yeah, right.
It's easier than we could have ever thought. And you know what? We should have been doing it a long time ago, because it has really upped everybody's game.
I think that's it. And I know, Catherine, you talked a little bit about those wonderful coffee, you know, virtual coffee meetings that you have.
Yeah, I call them my water cooler reach outs. And
water cooler.
yeah, we've been forced to innovate in how we communicate. Back to what I was saying earlier, we can't just do those casual drop-bys or meet somebody at the coffee station and have that little conversation where you learn something about the person, maybe some challenges they're faced with at work or at home, or just have a general nice casual conversation. So I started something called the virtual water cooler reach out, and it's really a mechanism for all of us to reach out to somebody. And I encourage my leadership team to do it at least twice a week. Find somebody in the company that you don't know very well, or you just want to check in on. You send them a little note and say, I want to have a water cooler reach out. And it works really nicely in that if I, as a CEO, decided just to reach out to one of our artists, I don't think it would go over very well. They'd probably wonder what the heck is going on. And but by saying it's water cooler reach out, they all understand the rules. They know that it's really just a hello. And I also encourage that the staff do it with each other. And this is something we're doing regularly, or we'll also do at lunches. A hangout where people can come in and just casually talk, and we'll usually get 4 or 5, sometimes 8 people, and it's fun. And quite frankly, it's probably the highlight of my week. It inspires me. I learn something new about somebody every time, and it gives me ideas on how we can be doing better as leaders to continue to create connectivity for the company and team, so we feel like one, even though we're spread out.
Do you actually structure them and put them in your schedule? Like, I'm doing a water cooler reach out at 10 o'clock on Thursday, and that's your time for that?
No, what I do is I'll send a note to somebody and say, how about this time? Because honestly, my schedule, back to what you're saying, Karen, I've never been so busy. I'm back to back to back. And so I'll do it in a way that I know I can talk to them within 24, 48 hours.
Good.
Pushed off, but yeah.
But you're right, it's all this innovation that we're seeing in terms of communication. But, you know, I'd love if anybody in the audience has, you know, any questions, please send them our way. But I think really what's interesting now is if we can focus a little bit on this content creation, because that has changed dramatically. And I know, you know, Heather, you talked a little bit about what you're doing with your sales force, but can you go into a little bit more detail on, as everything is digital, how do you create content that really gives your customer value? How do you know what that is? Are you doing, when you're with your sales force and they're out talking, is there a constant kind of rejigging of the content? Like, how do you even create the content for that group?
So there's a few ways that we do it. So I sit in on, sounds like a big company, right? But I sit in on multiple reviews most weeks. And so these are actually fantastic, where, for example, we'll have our whole team from North America get in there and present what's going on in their customers' accounts, what customers care about. And so I'm listening really heavily to these. We're also spending a lot of time with salespeople who are doing a lot of interactions. And so they'll be talking about, here are the topics that we're getting asked about all the time. We have a fabulous CTO who, the poor guy, is spending all of his time on WebEx or Zoom or Teams right now talking with customers. And he's great, he's creative, he's constantly drawing up the list. Here are the big hot topics that we need to develop content on. So we're listening in a bunch of ways, and it's mostly coming from customer engagement and what they care about. And so we'll go back and we'll create some interesting, at least we hope it's really interesting, conversation guides, facts. We might do writing. We're looking at different ways to explore those topics. We're also doing a lot more on podcasts, because those are super easy to produce in this environment. And we can pull some great guests on, and we've seen some nice jumps in listeners. But the thing that surprised us most is participation on webinars, because we used to always do webinars, but now in this environment, right, we had one the other day with 25,000 people. Like, that's just unheard of in our world. We had, another one that we produced, and it was done on 6 days notice. So very limited promotional window, where it was 6,000 people. That is, it's surprising us. But a lot of it is about content that's really timely and clearly in line with what people are asking.
Yeah, and so that's great, having that initial reaction from your audience, right? I mean, we always say that if you can engage your audience is your customer. But is it a quick turnaround? Are you finding that you're being able to create this content, so when you find it, there's a question or there's some area that you need to explain? I mean, did the podcast take a long time? How are you finding that kind of process now?
We have to, that is a change, right? We have to be quicker, right? So there might be a legislative change or something that's happening as a result that we have to turn the content much, much quicker. And so for us, we're trying to take a look at how easily can we get this out and in what format. Webinars are fairly easy because you can put together a presentation. With the podcast, we're producing, we do strong vetting and Q&A and prep, right? And then we're going into and able to produce them fairly quickly. And the writing, it's the turnaround and the schedules. That's what's changed. It has to be faster.
It's at speed. And I think we're getting a great question here, because I have the same question actually, which is, how are you executing on remotely without ability to shoot on sets or gather? Are you relying on production utilities like animation, user-generated content? I think that's a really, really good question. So who would like to tackle that one?
Well, we're shooting, as I said earlier, remotely with our actors and our counselors and hosts from home, and directing them through Zoom. Again, creating ways to move quickly, nimbly, not be as precious about our content, and find ways to turn it around. And for Camp Bonkers, the variety show, we've got to get one of these consistently on streamed Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So we're moving at a really rapid pace, and we have a feedback loop from our campers or the audience, and get feedback and integrate it into some of the storytelling, which is a lot of fun. And we're trying to not be too, as I said, precious about what we're doing, so we can shape this show and brand to what the audience is looking for.
Yeah, and I know with Shaftesbury, there's been teams working on, because we do obviously live action, so we do need to get on a set, and we do need to have actors, and we do need to, and there's a huge contingency plan that's coming through. So everything from how the craft service is going to be, how many actors are going to have on set, how you're going to actually even change the scripts to make them less full and maybe more concentrated on one space and characters that you can control, not as many. So I think there's a lot of information coming out from all around the world as people start to experiment and exchange ideas on, how this content can be created. So
yeah, the best practices are critical, and you're right. It's everywhere around the world we're trying to figure it out. In the world of animation, which we do a lot of, we're quite fortunate in that most people can work remotely. There's certain aspects that it's more challenging, but the digital animation business as a rule, particularly in television, you're used to working with people all over the world. So we've been quite fortunate from that perspective that the shift is not that significant as opposed to in live action where it's turning the whole industry upside down, or it has turned it upside down.
For
And then
sure.
for branded content, like when we're looking at explaining technical concepts, where we would do different types of promotional film, we're looking way more heavily at animation. And I actually think, and actually when you look in papers right now, we're seeing a lot of moves towards graphic reporters. And I think that this is a really interesting space that brands can play. If we're able to tell really highly technical stories with ease in a visually compelling way, I think that that's a big win.
Yeah, and I agree. I mean, we're all having to become a little bit more nimble. And to your point of somebody asking about user-generated content, is there opportunities to kind of look a little bit more at getting content from your fans or other places like that to kind of spread the gap or, be part of that whole production cycle? Has anybody started to use user-generated content?
We haven't yet, but our fans and our especially through our insiders program at Skybound, and that connectivity and relationship is really important to us. So we do get some feedback. We haven't used user-generated content at this point, but we're consistently finding ways to connect with them. And in terms of an event, I was just thinking about with Banff, of course, San Diego Comic-Con, as everyone knows, has been canceled. And that's a massive loss for us as a company. So again, we've had to be nimble and think about how do we make sure we keep that connection with our fan base who are, live for Comic-Con every year. And we're working on a whole digital program around that as well.
Right. So another question came in, which I think maybe Heather, you can look at. It's have clients been more risk adverse in terms of spend on content, or are you finding that clients have the same attitude with respect to their content needs?
I would look at it differently, right? So from our sense is a shift. We had quite a big budget for in-person events. Well, all of a sudden that money is now getting shifted to digital. And I think that there's a willingness right now to try new things that wasn't there before. We're trying to find new ways. And so for us, it's digital demos, right? So there's money on how do you do that. It's a shift more than it is anything else.
So I think there's a really interesting question that came in too is, as you're all talking about your teams and really relying on them, what is the opportunity for new people? If there's new people that want to become part of, either give you ideas or be part of your production schedule, how does somebody now get your attention? How do they kind of find you, basically? And are you open to it? Like, are people open to trying new people at this time?
I can talk to that. So I think us, like other companies, when you're doing new things, you need new expertise. So as we're, pivoting to being this now content company, we need people who can edit. We need people who can, put together different kinds of marketing campaigns. We're working with third parties, service providers, frankly, ones that can help us. So we work with a virtual control room company when we're doing our video content. We just did a big session yesterday for the new Snowpiercer masterclass for the new Snowpiercer series with all the talent and executives behind that show. And we have been working with not only just different people within our company, but different service providers. And we've been, we have new opportunities there are new opportunities to work with us in a different way than companies certainly have before.
Yeah, and I actually agree. Actually, we're working on a project right now where, Catherine, I'm going to have to talk to you because we want to try animation. We've got this piece of content that would work so well for it, and we're all sitting around going, okay, we haven't really done any animation. Who can we talk to? So I think you're right. We're all trying new things, and we're trying to find things that are going to fit and help us to drive our business forward. And that's really, really what we're trying to do, is drive a business forward. Give content, though, that is going to be relevant to our audience and they're going to engage with. And again, we all talked about cutting through the clutter. And that is definitely, that's the area where we're all kind of going, it's a trial and error, and nobody really has that answer, it seems. But, anybody who does speak up, because I think we can all learn from that idea of cutting through the clutter.
I think, Karen, you're absolutely right on that one. And I've said for a long time, like, I think we had a bunch of excuses when we worked for a brand. We aren't a production company. We aren't expecting to be creating amazing shows like Walking Dead. But all of a sudden the competition is there. And even like you look at platforms like Masterclass, there was a cool article in New York Times the other day where they're talking about, will that be, the only platform left in education, as a little bit of a jest. But the reality is, for us, we need to have our production quality, start to take a big leap up, because we need to be on par with stuff like Masterclass and really great content, because we're all competing for eyeballs. Every single one of our customers is seeing the same shift, right? The number of things that are coming at them for webinar invites or check this out digitally, right, is tenfold.
Yeah,
sorry, go ahead, Jen.
No, I think a big part of it, and you always think about this, and sometimes you can lose sight of it when there's all these new opportunities, is just always grounding yourself with what your USP is and who you're trying to serve and what you're trying to be for whom. So for us, the live event, what do we do? We actually did this exercise very early on. Who are we? What do we do? Well, we connect the industry. We bring people together to do business. We are that petri dish mostly for original content across drama, documentary, and kids content. We're the place where the people who the creators and producers who have the properties come together with for lack of a better word, the buyers, the funders, the studio executives and network executives and streaming executives, to talk about new projects and to get them made. So while we do all of this content, we do master classes and panels where industry leaders discuss what the future of the industry is. We do those as that's our education piece. But the unique thing that we do is bring people together to do business. So how do we do that? So the very core of what we're doing is focusing on doing these things like speed meetings, where we can have a person sit in a virtual room and bring people in to meet with them and pitch to them, and have small group content discussions and facilitating that on a digital platform. So like we had to ask ourselves, what do we do? What do we want to do? And how do we do that in this space? And for us, that cutting through the clutter is something that actually is proving to be really great, because there's a lot of finished program content markets out there, but there aren't a lot of content markets for original development of new content. And so we found our niche, and the people that we need to speak to for that, we are able to give them that message: is if you want to create new things, you can come here and we'll help set you up with the people you need to talk to.
I like how you said that. When in the notion of you're really clear on what your service and what your value is, and anchoring on that.
Yeah,
I agree.
You have to go back there, right? And sometimes you veer from that because there's a new opportunity. You become something in addition to. But for us, we had to go back to that. But that said, we've always been this very special thing that happens in Banff, the most beautiful place on the planet. And people, yes, we are a conference, but people go there because it is that retreat experience. Now we're competing with everybody else who's on the internet, every single other festival, market, everything. We don't have those beautiful mountains. So we need to make sure that we're very clear about what we're doing, and we actually are a service.
You could put some virtual mountains behind you.
We've thought of it.
They only have the palm trees that sway. That's what they have on the Zoom background. Yeah, so I know it's a little bit crazy. But so just to finish off, because I know our time is coming up to an end, I would love it if you guys could just give some tips, like tips on how you could potentially organize your plan for creating content. Some just quick tips. You might have already talked about it, but let's just do like a fast round of tips. So I don't know who wants to start. Catherine.
Well, in our case, back to how are we trying to cut through and what we're doing. This is an experiment. We're early days on our Camp Bonkers show, but we've decided not to just simply drop the video, but we've created a time that it streams. So it's an event going back to the old days when things were scheduled, trying to just be a little bit different and set ourselves up so that people will take notice. I can't tell you if it's worked yet, but the videos that we've actually had a time slot where kids can tune in have gotten that many more views so far than those that have just dropped. And so, but we're really early days.
That's interesting.
Again,
So going back to that old way.
Yeah, yeah. And it's old and new. We've got on demand and we have a live event.
Yeah. And Jen, what about you for a tip?
I'm actually gonna carry on with something that you said, Heather, in that we're finding when you said you did an event, you had 25,000 people, unprecedented, with 6 days notice. We're finding that our marketing schedule has shrunk considerably. So that's something to think about, is if you want people to engage with your content in a virtual environment, you don't need to tell them months ahead necessarily. A lot of times that whole marketing schedule really contracts, and a few days ahead is often sufficient, even though people, put things in their calendars. But the big marketing push for us has 100, we don't need to get people out to Banff. We need to just get their attention during a specific time. And we're finding that the sweet spot for that is in fact a few days notice versus weeks of notice.
And Heather, anything else you want to add?
I saw the comment on scarcity, because in my comment, there's two things. It's play into the void, right? In spite of all of the noise that's going around, right? If you really understand the value and the service and what people need, and you nail that, right, I think that your chances of success are going to be a lot higher. And then to the person who was asking the question about how do you work and are you open to new suppliers, this is one of the best times to do proactive pitches, right? So like if you understand and have that, skill in animation, and you can help people do some interesting things, or, visual display of graphical information that's highly technical, or if you've got a new idea, I would say proactively pitch, because everyone's experimenting right now. And if you've got a cool idea and you get it in front of the right person, you got a good shot.
That's great. And so thank you, all of you. I'm going to hand it back to Drew, who's somewhere hiding.
Hello. Thank you so much to everybody on this panel. Thank you so much for all the contributions here. And if you're just joining us, or if you had to dip and you're no longer here and you can't hear me, we will be uploading this to YouTube within the hour or so. So check us out at BrandStorytelling.tv/streams, and you can watch this this full stream as well as others from the past. Thank you, Catherine and Heather and Jen and Karin, for hosting. Really appreciate it. And I hope you stay safe and well, and talk to you soon.
Thanks for everything too, Drew. Thank you.